One of the things that really drew me into Marx collecting was a great little line of scale cars. 3/16 scale means that it's 1/64th scale, but yet it runs on 3-rail track. And this particular one is the first of the tank cars, and what's special about this one is it is a pre-war tank car, and you can tell because of the silver dome, the silver ladder, and the silver frame. Also, you can tell because it has the black wheels that are thinner than the post-war wheels, and it also has this pre-war coupler. And if you can see that slot, I don't know if you can see the slot in the little foot of that coupler, that makes it a pre-war car. Now, all of these cars were built the same. They've got nice detail, wire step, wire grab irons. They've got the ladder, they've got the step, they've got the 2 rivets on the top of the dome, and they're really quite nice. Right after the war, though, they changed this Niacet number 256 to a black frame, and I'll show you that on the track. Alright, now we're back at the layout, and here is the same tank car that I just showed you with the silver dome, silver ladder, and silver frame. And I will show you now the black frame version. Built identical, same red letters, same number 256, but this one has a black dome, black frame, and black ladders, and that makes it post-war. It also has the larger wheels, the wider diameter wheels, and notice that that little slot in the coupler is no longer there. After the war, Marx decided to make a couple more tank cars with the same body, just different paint, and this one is the shell, and the shell is quite striking in the color. The yellow is very bright. It has yellow letters, and now instead of a 256 Niacet, it's a 652 shell. And I don't know if they meant to scramble the numbers, but it sure seems non-coincidental. And then next came along this city service tank car, nice bright green, and it's number 2532. What makes it a little bit different is that this one now has a plastic coupler. Still couples to the metal tilt coupler, but the plastic tilt coupler is usually what I find on the city service. So there's the 3, the city service, the shell, and the 2 Niacets. So that's pretty well covers the 3/16 cars. Although I will tell you a little bit about the shell in just a moment. Since we're here, show you some custom paints. You know, sometimes you find a tank car in really horrible condition, and you can repaint it, like this Turtle Creek Central route of the Dashing Turtle. That came from decals that were free in a Model Railroader magazine. Here comes another version of a shell. This is all make-believe. This is a custom paint. It's a red primer color. It looks quite nice. And then the last custom paint that I will show you is the Northern Pacific. And that looks really nice as well. I've got a 333 staged to pull this train, and before we talk about the shell tank cars, I will make a few laps. Okay, here's a nice 333 with a die-cast tender, and let's run tank cars. brought the shell tank car number 652 over to the workbench so that you could see another similar tank car that was made in Japan. And this is the 752 Pegasus. And it's obviously in shell colors. It says Pegasus. It has a cool Pegasus on the end. It's a great looking car. But the way that it is built, it's obvious that it was a Japanese knockoff. It's got the same dome, the same ladders, the same grab irons, the same frame. Everything's the same until you get to the trucks. And they appeared to copy Lionel when it came to the trucks, except for they didn't use die cast or plastic. They used all stamped tin. So interesting to see that there was something else going on in Japan that was very similar to Marx. I should have mentioned that the Japanese car that I just showed was made by a company called Sakai. At the same time that Marx was developing their 3/16 scale cars, American Flyer was doing the same. This American Flyer car is actually pre-war, so it started earlier, and it's got the same color design shell. It's number 480. The frame is quite a bit different. It's not a copy. Marx didn't copy them. Flyer didn't copy Marx. It's got hook couplers. It's built on a flat car frame, and it's a real handsome car. Also mentioned that Lionel was building shell cars about the same time, but they weren't going for scale. So there is a 2654 with box couplers, very similar frame to American Flyer, but certainly wasn't 3/16 scale. So here are all four shell cars together for size comparison. The Marx in the foreground, Sakai to the left, American Flyer in the back, and Lionel to the right. And just when you think there can't be any more shell tank cars, Marx throws a curve, and instead of the scale trucks, the Type B truck like you see here, they came out with a series on Type D trucks. So it's the same car, it stands a little bit higher, and it has a Type D truck. And it also has a short coupler. I don't know if you've seen these before, but nobody makes a replacement for those couplers. But the good news is they are compatible with all Marx tilt couplers. Not only did they make the shell in the high trucks, they made the Niacet car in Type D trucks, as well as the city service. So there are all three cars on high trucks. And you won't find a silver frame version of the Niacet because the Type D truck came out after the war. And I believe the reason that they put these cars and a number of other scale cars on high trucks was so they would look at home on the Santa Fe 21 diesels, which are a much larger locomotive. Let's run a train of the high truck cars. And I should have gotten out the Santa Fe diesels number 21, but I've been really wanting to get this 1829 out and dust it off. If you remember, the 1829 is just like the 333, except for it's a 464 instead of a 462, and it has a plastic shell and a plastic 2731 tender. Here we go. As you can see, I added a few other high truck cars, D truck style cars, because I thought 3 tank cars was too short of a train. The other reason I did was this is another variation you might find in the high truck cars. That's the tab and slot coupler. And some tank cars came that way with the tab and slot. And if you run across them, it's a normal thing, and they do couple with the plastic tilt couplers. All right, hope you enjoyed that train.